I wish I was kidding, but I think God would want me to be honest about my past, and I've done some things that has put me in this position that next month I'll be going to prison.
Okay.
So I need prayer. And I'll be honest with you. Patrick has assembled a team called Kairos. Most of you know what that is. But he has prepared a team of about 20-some men, and there's a huge responsibility of these 20-some men that are going to go into prison. We are there to let these residents know that God is alive and care about him, each and every one of them. And this is not just a small undertaking of these 20 men. I kind of compare it to Jesus and the disciples. I'm not saying I'm a disciple. I'm saying I'm a ragtag bunch. And that's what all 20 of us basically are. We're mixed in with people, ordinary people, all the way to people that are returning to prison for the first time. Because they were in this ministry. They were a part of it as a resident, and now they're going in as a person to help other people figure out that God is alive and loves them. And with this ministry, what I've seen is there's a lot to go on for God to show his love to these men from on Thursday night, where they're just showing up for a sandwich, till Sunday afternoon, and they're praising God. You see, these men are in a prison where they don't have much hope. All they see is crime. And somehow, in 4 days, we're going to convince people that don't care anything about who we are. They're just figuring out how to get a free sandwich and some cookies, to loving the Lord. Well, let me tell you, it's going to take a lot more than this ragtag bunch of 20 people. And this is where you all come in. There are lots of ways to get involved. One is prayer. Now, to me, that's always the scapegoat. Yeah, I'll pray, whatever. They're going to have a prayer vigil, and they've got signed up for a half-hour increments. We're not even asking you to pray for the whole half hour. If you can just say a prayer during that half hour for the event, that's all we need. Obviously, the more prayer, the better. But on top of you signing up for a half hour, you're going to get your name written down on one of these pieces of paper. And on this piece of paper, after you write your name on it, we're going to turn it into a little circle. And everybody that prays is going to have one of these. And throughout the weekend, at one certain point of the weekend that it builds to, they pull this chain out that goes and across the entire room 2 or 3 times of people praying for these men. And that, my friends, shows them how much God cares. Another way that you can do, obviously money is always a wonderful thing, but we have tickets for lunch and dinner and breakfast. A $10 donation will buy this resident their meal for the day. When they sit down and see that some stranger, and your name will be on here and where you're from, bought them their meal, can you imagine how blown away? Why would a stranger do this for me? Well, it's not doing it for them, it's for the Lord. The Lord uses each and every one of us, each and every day. And this ministry is definitely a way that you don't have to be like me and go to prison, but you can be a part of the ministry in several ways. Lastly, you've seen the plastic bag. We were also collecting cookies. Now you say, you know that there's a dozen cookies that show up in this bag and we take them in, yada, yada, yada. Pretty boring. But then I started doing the math. For 20 ragtag guys that don't cook, one guy told me yesterday, he goes, how long am I going to get the cookies? I haven't got no oven that works. Okay, I guess I'm going to have to figure out how to get more cookies because he's not going to come up with his share. we have pre-bagged with instructions on how to get your cookies that you can bake and bring in here and bring it back by the 12th. All the instructions are in this thing. I started doing the math on the cookies, and we need 2,500 cookies. Oops. 2,500 dozen cookies. That's over 30,000 cookies that God has trusted us ragtaggers to get. And God has never failed. He has always provided the cookies through folks like you. So, if you want to bake a dozen or 12 dozen cookies, I have as many bags as you need. If you want to go to GFS and buy a $20 box of cookies, which was a 12 dozen cookies, we'll be here on the church next Sunday evening at 6 o'clock, and we'll bake them for you. If you want to come and enjoy our company, there'll be a, what's that?
Shirley will be there, right?
Shirley's going to be there.
Okay.
So, if you want to be a part of something big, I can't even explain to you. Let me tell you this. I've got a video to explain to you just a quick hit of what this is all about and what it means.
What do you do with all those cookies on a Kairos meeting?
I usually give mine away. I usually give my Kairos cookies away. I don't go without, as you can see. I think you hear most of the guys that aren't believers down the hallway, they call them Jesus cookies. When are we getting the Jesus cookies? And that's an awesome thing. A non-believer looking and excited about getting something from Jesus. And that's what it's all about anyways. So that's what I do. I give mine away. To get blessings, you got to be a blessing. And that's what I try and do. On the weekend, they give you forgiveness cookies. And when I went through my weekend, it was a time in my life, there was a teetering. There was a lot of stuff going on. I was in a very dark place, and I was part of a group, and this group expected me to do some stuff, and it was going to happen after my weekend. And actually during my weekend, they give you a brown bag of cookies, and they tell you, listen, give this to the person that you have to give the most forgiveness to. And the person that I was supposed to do something to, I sent that bag of cookies to him. And he had just went through a weekend, so he knew what that bag of cookies meant. So in my weekend, it not only saved my life, but it possibly saved somebody else's life with those forgiveness cookies. Because in me giving those forgiveness cookies, that relationship with that guy was rectified, was reconciled, and those cookies, in many cases, and I'm not saying in all of them, but in many cases, they save lives.
See, he got real serious when he started talking about the cookies. These aren't just cookies. These are truly Jesus cookies. And they will change lives that weekend. And I wasn't there when Jesus fed the 5,000 with a couple loaves of bread. But I will be there next month. And I will see that Jesus is still performing miracles today. And whether you can pray, you can pay for a meal, make some cookies, figure out how God wants to use you in the coming weeks. Because I know whatever gift you let him have, he will multiply it. We'll be out in the narthex after the service for any questions. I thank you for the time, and I thank you in advance for what you plan to do for Jesus.